you have a gifted child at home and you've been thinking about homeschooling them, this video is for you. In this video, I want to talk about some of the considerations that a family could think about if they are considering either sending their child to public school or homeschooling their child. Now, just as a warning, I will not be giving a direct answer of all gifted kids should be homeschooled or all gifted kids should go to public school, because it is not that simple. This isn't a black and white issue. It's very much in the gray. And the reason for that is because every child is unique, every family is unique, every family's priorities, time, resources are different. And so it really depends on what stage of life your family is in, what your child needs and what your child prefers, and really figuring out the best option for your child in this season of life. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some of the needs of gifted kids. Gifted kids need intellectual challenge, not just more busy work. They need usually faster pacing and flexible pacing, some things they might need to spend more time on than the general curriculum allows at a public school, and other things they might go through really quickly and might need something more difficult faster. The other thing is they like depth and complexity when it comes to topics. They're usually emotionally sensitive, or just intense with their emotions. A lot of times, gifted kids still need peer interaction. They can't just not talk to people, like they still need that. Another thing is, if you have a twice exceptional kid, they do crave psychological safety so that they're not constantly masking or pretending to fit in. So those are kind of some things that gifted and twice exceptional kids really need and crave. Now, some other things to consider when it comes to your family and how things work in your family is how much time you have, how many resources you have to devote to schooling your child. And I would argue the most important thing to consider is your child's preference. I would almost always go with what my child prefers. If my child comes home from public school saying that they're bored and tired and don't like school, homeschooling might be a really good option to try out for a couple of years. But if my child is homeschooled and they really like being around friends and talking to people and talking to their teachers, then public school might be a great option. So I would really go with your child's preference and what they like and what they prefer, how they learn best. So let's dive in. Some of the great things about public schools are the access to specialists. If you have a twice exceptional child, a child that has some sort of disability or needs speech therapy or occupational therapy or whatever, schools are really great with providing those services, especially if you have an IEP for your child. They are legally, by law, mandated to provide those services for your kid. Another thing that a lot of schools offer are clubs, sports, academic competitions. Those can be really fun ways for kids to practice their skills and grow their skills and kind of develop in that way. Schools also provide opportunities for peer interactions. There's structure, there's predictability. So there are a lot of really great benefits to having your child enrolled in public school. Some of the cons are that not all public schools have strong gifted programming. So a lot of times kids can be stuck in a track where they're really bored or they're ready to move on to the next concept, but their classmates are still stuck on a previous one. And so they might be bored for a little while if there isn't a strong gifted program. There are also some teachers that prioritize compliance over curiosity and divergent thinking. And so that might make it really challenging for some gifted kids to thrive in a public school environment. But with that said, I have seen public school done really well and really meet the needs of gifted kids. And I've also seen it, unfortunately, not done so well. I've also seen homeschool done really well and be really structured and organized. And sometimes homeschooling doesn't go very well. So it's not like a black and white issue here. It really depends on the needs of your child and how many resources and how much time you have to devote to this. Now, homeschooling can be a really great option if your child needs a faster pace of learning or they're really interested in a certain topic. Those can be great reasons to homeschool your child, because as a homeschool parent, you would have full control over how quickly your child moves through the curriculum and kind of what they're learning. Some of the cons are social interactions would take a little bit more planning. And I've seen parents burn out when they kind of bite off more than they can chew when it comes to homeschooling. Another thing is that it can get really expensive depending on what kind of curriculum you choose, whether you choose an online based one or more of a paper pencil and parent led one. So it does depend on which curriculum you choose. It can get pretty expensive. There are also other options. School doesn't have to be this like, if I pick public school, I'm going to be in public school my whole life. Like, not necessarily. Kids can go to public school for a couple of years. If for whatever reason it doesn't work out, they can do homeschool for a couple of years. Schooling can be fluid and flexible to meet the needs of the child and meet the needs of the family. So, those are some things to consider. Now, I am also saying this, keep in mind that I am a public school teacher. I work in an awesome district. I work in a district that does have a lot of opportunities for kids who are gifted, a lot of gifted programming. So that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. But again, homeschool can be a really great option. If you're looking for like a middle ground, a lot of communities do offer something called a co-school or a co-op situation where your child might go to a brick and mortar school like once a week, and then the rest of the week they can be at home practicing their skills. So that might be a really great option. There are also micro schools and online schools to consider. So really the options are endless. After the pandemic, I feel like schooling has become a lot more flexible and really allows people to choose what works best for their family. So some things to consider if you're thinking about making the switch is, where is my child now? And are they thriving or are they just surviving? Do they really enjoy what they're doing, or do they come home every day and are not liking their school experience? So that is, I would say, the first thing to really consider. Also, if something's not broken, don't fix it. That's something else that I kind of live by. Another thing is, are their intellectual and emotional needs being met? They might really like public school, but are they learning? Are they growing, or are they just practicing skills that they've learned years ago? As kids get older, like in high school, there are some really cool reasons why somebody might want to homeschool their kids. For example, there's a boy named Ryder who's in high school who started his own business making like desserts dipped in chocolate. And he has a social media page called Dipped by Ryder, and he sells these desserts to people in his community. He's in high school, he goes to public school, and if his family came to me and asked me this question, should we put Ryder, into a homeschool situation, or should we keep him in public school? I would say, you know what, it might make a lot of sense to have Ryder go to either a co-schooling situation, online school situation, or even a homeschool, because that would free up so much more time for him to work on his business, scale his business, and all of those things. So if your child has a specific interest that you see that they're really passionate about, that might be a really great reason to homeschool your child, to give them more time and opportunities. Maybe they're really into music or a certain art, or like maybe a certain sport, and you see they have a lot of potential in that area. Homeschooling a lot of times takes less time than the number of hours that kids would spend in public school. So as kids get older, it might make sense to homeschool your child if they have a very specific interest in something and want to pursue that. So again, if Ryder's family came and talked to me about this, I would be like, yeah, I think that would be a solid option to homeschool him. But if a lot of his clients are kind of people who he interacts with at his school, then that might not make sense to homeschool him if he enjoys school, or if he gets a lot of his clients from public school, or like parents of kids who go to school with him. So that is kind of something to consider. And again, I don't know if this child, if Ryder is a gifted kid, but it's just kind of an example that I like to use. So ultimately, I think that every family is unique, every child is unique, and I think that homeschooling and public schooling can work in different seasons of life, and if it's done well. So if you homeschool your child, or if you send your child to public school, or if you did a little bit of both, what was the deciding factor for you and for your family? Let me know in the comments.